the business of conscientious objection, and nobody was trying to force anybody to participate in this process. But the corollary of that, I mean, that protects the practitioner, whether it's a physician or another medical professional. But looking at it from the point of view of the patient, how do we ensure that that there is what I would call an effective referral? Something more than simply saying, well, I can't be involved in this, you're on your own, go and look it up on the internet, or you go call the medical society and they may be able to help you. Do you agree that we need to design a regime that ensures there is a more effective referral than that?
Yes, and this became clear. This became clear to us through the consultation. We heard from many physicians who initially felt like this was weighing down a burden. This was falling only on physicians' shoulders. But on the issue of access, very clearly there are multiple actors that need to be operating together in order to be able to make this, to ensure access. What we've recommended is that in here we've defined roles for different levels of institutional roles, so regional health authorities to facilitate access. Quite apart from the issue of conscientious objection, access period is going to be a challenge for many in Canada. And so there is going to need to be system coordination, and that will be at the provincial and at the regional level within provinces, indeed.
The role of the regulatory authorities, colleges of physicians.
Regulatory authorities, indeed. And I think this is where the Supreme Court of Canada invited us to balance rights. And so we do acknowledge in clinical practice, and not just physicians, but other health professionals as well, that they have a right of conscience. And in fact, one of our members, Sister Noella Kenny, Dr. Sister Noella Kenny, who was a member of our expert advisor group, reminded us that conscience also applies to those who are proponents and are willing to practice physician-assisted death. Their conscience tells them that this is the right thing to do. And unless we need to be able to ensure that we have a regime that calls on physicians and clinicians to stay closely anchored to what they're called to do in terms of public service. So this is, the colleges do have a key role in making very clear what the expectations are of their members in terms of facilitating access. It's been very clear in our recommendations, and also we're hearing this from some of especially from the physicians in palliative care, that an effective transfer of care would be important, but that all physicians, all clinicians ought to be able to provide all information about all options. That doesn't mean that the physician needs to participate in the act of physician-assisted death, but they must be able to provide information on the options, and if necessary, on the basis of conscience, facilitate an effective transfer. And to do that well, they're going to need others in the system facilitating.
Exactly. If I may, well, can I just make sure that you're also your comments would also apply to institutions?
In the report, you talk about physicians refraining from this is in section recommendation 36, and I'm just really curious in your discussions about how big of an issue it was on physicians refraining from participating in physician-assisted dying, and if you see that that's a large issue that we need to pay a lot of attention to on the conscientious objection, and or just any quick thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm not a legal expert, but I have a feeling that this is going to be seen as something that the provinces will say they have jurisdiction over. That's what we were told by the Attorney General, but I will say I love that you're thinking along those lines, because again, we don't want a patchwork approach to this. As we know, right now in Prince Edward Island, women cannot get an abortion. We do not want that to happen with physician-assisted dying. And anything your group can do to ensure, in the absence of this is one worry, I'll be blunt, is that some provinces will do nothing after next June. They won't bring in legislation, and I think you were talking about that yesterday. So if you can have something in place where those Canadians who live in a province that wants to bury its head in the sand won't be left without this option. I don't know what those things are. I'm not the expert, but I love that you're thinking about it. This is an issue that seems fairly uniquely Canadian. Of course, there are physicians who conscientiously object in the other jurisdictions, but as far as we knew from our research, it has never been such a mountain to climb as it seems to be in Canada, and I have no insight as to why that is.